Sportskeeda, I was part of the product management team, wherein I was looking at both the website as well as the mobile app. It's a very fancy term, to be honest. It's almost the same thing what we do earlier, right? So account-based sales development kuch naya nahi hai. It's not something new. When I say requirement in terms of this role, the number one would be a basic knowledge in terms of sales process. So you would come across multiple terms like mining, farming.
In this episode, we explore the world of sales and business development. We are joined by someone who is a hustler and believes in turning challenges into opportunities. Let's welcome Ritesh, alumni of Great Lakes Institute of Management in Chennai, as he shares insights on account-based sales development.
Welcome, Ritesh. One interesting thing about your career was that you had a short stint, but an important stint with Sportskeeda as well. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, the Sportskeeda stint was a bit different to what I've done earlier. Earlier stints were more around strategy, more about talking to the customers and pitching solutions or products to the customers from the outside. But in Sportskeeda, I was part of the product management team, wherein I was looking at both the website as well as the mobile app. I got my hands dirty in terms of trying to understand and implement the features, which I had actually come across with my team as part of a user research, working with the development team, the testing team, trying to understand the pain points of customers, addressing them. So it was a bit different, truly, as compared to what I had done earlier, but a very high learning curve.
Let's get into account-based sales development.
Yeah.
Explain me what exactly is ABSD and how does it differs from the traditional spray and pray sales approach?
So Pushkal, it's a very fancy term, to be honest. It's almost the same thing what we do earlier, right? So account-based sales development kuch naya nahi hai. It's not something new. It's just being more strategic in nature, more focus on high-value accounts rather than just spray and pray, as you said. It's not about spreading or casting a wide net and taking as many accounts as possible. It's more like doing a proper research on which account you want to target. What is its revenue potential? How aligned as a company my products and services are towards that clients, and how it would actually connect with its overall mission and vision in terms of achieving their value. Ultimately, it's all about delivering business value to the customer. So like you said, it's a bit different. It's more strategic. Some 3 to 4 points which I would like to convey in terms of difference between strategic versus more transactional in nature. Number one, it requires increased collaboration across multiple teams, be it sales, be it marketing, compared to a traditional approach which was more lead centric rather than account specific. One more difference which I would like to call out is it's about understanding how my company would align to the target company in terms of what are my products and services. Would it be helpful? Would it be something which we could nurture in the long term? That is another point of differentiation between traditional and account-based. Number three is using data-driven insights and technology. You would have heard multiple tools like marketing automation, logical workflow, which people use to kind of keep track on how the account is progressing. That is something which was not there in the earlier aspect as well. A couple of more differentiators I would say is initially lead-centric approach would only be via one channel. एक ही channel से we could approach those accounts. But now we have so many channels today. We kind of do direct calls. There is LinkedIn messaging. There is in-person meetings, webinars, conferences. There are multiple ways when you reach out to a specific customer. And lastly, and most importantly, patience. Patience and nurturing that relationship across multiple stages is something which in the traditional approach, it would just be transactional and quick, closing down the deal and moving to the next one. But here it's more about trying to understand the customer. It could be multiple issues which are not in your control. Like if there is some COVID kind of impact which happens, if the customer runs out of budget, if the stakeholder whom you are pursuing for the last 2 to 3 months might not remain in the organization the next day. So there are multiple challenges, I would say, which we'll discuss more in detail, but it's more about being patient, nurturing it, and being persistent. That is one of the major differences I see in a traditional versus the account-based sales.
Makes sense. Especially because, a lot of our audience would know what exactly is account-based marketing.
Yeah.
The transactional marketing approach doesn't work when it comes to account-based marketing. Of course, we pick one particular account, and then we strategically get into that account, create multiple touch points, identify what are the decision makers,
Exactly.
and then you work your way around.
Yes.
Also help me understand the ABSD by breaking down the key steps involved. And probably if you can also help me understand what's the most overrated step in the process.
So when you talk about steps, it's not something which is comprehensive in nature, but I would break it down into multiple stages per se.
Okay.
The first stage, most importantly, is to understand your customer profile.
Okay.
That is something which is not underrated, but yes, not overly emphasized as well in today's environment. So when you reach out to a customer, you need to understand them in terms of which vertical they belong to, what are the geographical locations they are present in, what kind of industry they specifically serve people, how are they doing in terms of their revenue, are they meeting their targets. So basically, overall 360 view of the customer is something very important.
Okay.
Once you understand the customer, you actually need to understand whether me as a person who belong to my company would be able to serve my customers' needs with respect to the products or services which we have.
Okay.
Currently, I work in a company which is more service based. So I need to understand the services which are available within my company are something which would be helpful to the customer. Otherwise, there is no point actually, engaging with them and wasting their time. So it's all about having that alignment. Number three, and something which is most underrated, is how my company's goal, that's mission and vision, is similar to what the account I'm trying to target.
Absolutely.
Something which is very different is something which doesn't go gel well. So that is something which need to be very clear. Number four, I would say, is, as you mentioned earlier, right? Targeting the key people, the key decision makers in the whole organization is something very crucial. Especially when the organization is like a Fortune 50 and Fortune 100 company. There are so many business units and it's very hierarchical in nature, right? You don't know which person is the decision maker out there.
Okay.
So targeting the specific decision maker within the company is something which is really crucial.
Okay.
The overrated, I would say, is trying to see that your solutions are sold very quickly and beating the competitors. That's very overrated. Whenever you want to target someone, you will say, I want to do better than the competitor. He or she has a product and I have something which is better. That is the case. That's not the case. Reason being, competition works in different ways, right? There could be accounts where competition is present for 5 to 6 years, but haven't done anything. There are cases where competition is there for a long time and they are strategic partners. So
exactly.
It's very difficult for someone who comes from the outside to make a difference right away. But then competition is not only about products or services, it is about experience. It is about what you bring to the table and how you think that target account is your company itself in helping them to impact their both bottom line and top line. Ultimately, it's all about making smarter business decisions. That is what we as a company or I as a person, whenever I'm targeting a specific account, would like to bring to the table for the customer.
Right.
So that there are multiple stages. The continuation to that is, and something which I missed out to call out is personalization. You just cannot shift and lift and just place everything what is there in terms of content. Content has to be personalized based on the profile you're targeting, the company you're targeting, what is the duration, what is the kind of project you're targeting. It could be something in terms of data engineering. It could be something in terms of consultancy. The content has to be very personalized. In today's day and age where content is so easily available and either ka udhar you cannot do. You cannot shift and lift. It has to be very personalized.
Correct.
So that is one of the stages and very critical stage in between where you are actually creating that whole content piece. Lastly, I would say nurturing and continuing with the conversation. You just cannot show something and leave it out there. You need to pursue, you need to be persistent. You need to talk to them regularly, understand their pain points, see to help or collaborate with them and take it to its logical conclusion. Just selling your product or a solution is not the end game here. It's about moving forward. Okay, this is done. Do you think something where we can add value in a different unit or a different thing? It's all about a partnership at the end of the day. So that is the final stage. And I won't say it's a stage which is final, but it's an overlasting journey which goes on and on. But basically, if you want to convey this to someone on how are the different stages of this account-based sales development, so these are the primarily 5 to 6 stages. Which
Okay. So Ritesh, since you said content needs to be personalized, I wanted to understand what do you call content here with respect to ABSD?
Okay, content could be in multiple forms, right? So I'll say, let me take an example of when I'm pursuing a person or a specific individual within a target account. Right from the time when I want to tell that person about my company, there will be certain amount of content. It would be PPTs, brochures, flyers. I would be meeting him or her in a conference, and I would like to walk through the whole company offering services. So that is one aspect where the socialization could take place. The other aspect is, once you're talking to the customer would like to know more about what are your capabilities in a specific sector, like a data engineering, data analytics, consultancy, UI, UX. It could be anything. So personalizing that content based on the industry he or she belongs to, the vertical he or she belongs to, what are the stage in what maturity they are in their whole journey. That would be very important in terms of personalizing that content and presenting them. Ultimately, it's all about adding value. Once you talk to them, and that would be in the format of PPTs, PDFs, or anything, brochures. They would also like to understand with whom you have done this in the past, right? So there are customers who are very happy with the work we have done. So they would give you testimonials, they would give you some kind of case studies, which would have some value, which is depicted. That is something which you can showcase to your potential customers to build that trust, that commitment that that's something which can be delivered. So just to answer your question, it could be across the stage. There is no specific stage where a content has to be personalized. Right from the time where you talk about the company, to the time you talk about your offering service, to the time you deliver or give an overview of what delivery you have done. The content could be in various formats. It's very easy to make today with the help of all AI stuff and coming through. It's very easy to understand the insights. It's also pretty democratized, I would say. But ultimately, you cannot undermine the impact of personalization angle brings to the content piece.
Makes sense. So now we have personalized the content, but first things first, we have to understand how do we choose the right target account. So how do we do that? How do we go about that?
So here is where the data plays a very important role, Pushkal. So you have, as I said, right, account based is more strategic. You need to first do your homework in terms of which accounts you will pursue. It also depends upon the size of your team, the resources you have, the technology you have on the table to do this pursuit, right? So according to me, based on my learnings, the way I approach it is twofold. One, I understand the account in terms of which location it caters to, what are the kind of consumers it has, what are its target goals. Does this account has potential, a very high potential in the long term, rather than this being a very small short-term account, right? If it has something for long term, I, as well as my company, would be happy to pursue it and nurture it, rather than this being very small account. Customer does not have any budget, it doesn't address the need, so it's pretty transactional. There are instances where customers come with very narrow, very specific requirements, which is good in a way because they want to interact with you and seek your services. But then that is not something which is long term.
Sorry to cut you off, but within your organization, does this intelligence come from the account intelligence team, or you guys do that?
So it's a mix of both. We have the account intelligence team also giving us insights of their prior experience with respect to how the customer has replied or responded with what was the stage at that time, what was the maturity. And we as a team also actually try to understand the profile, try to understand what was his or her prior experience before even coming into this account. What are his interest areas? How has the company been doing? Is there any mutual connect which that he or she has within someone within our company or within our network itself that would act as a reference? It could be some good work we have done with him or her in his previous work experience, which could actually open doors for us. So it's a mix and match of a lot of things coming here. That is why you might also recall network is net worth, right? That is a famous adage which we hear here.
Uncle
So
Bala,
it's all about,
this
yes,
reminds me of Uncle Bala.
yes.
Yeah.
So that is something which plays a very important role in this whole process, where you know the people, and the people could act as your reference rather than your work talking about the thing. So that's something which is really important. And any questions there you would like to go
Absolutely. Okay. I want to understand in the whole process that you took me along with. What are the
Yeah.
challenges that generally an ABSD professional might cater to, and how to overcome those challenges?
So as I said, right, the stages which I give you a walkthrough in terms of the ABSD process, there are challenges which come through, and some challenges are in our control, for which we have to come up with a good process and a framework, while there are some challenges which needs ad hoc intervention. Right. So when I talk about challenges, again, we'll go through the whole stages. So I spoke about creating a profile. Companies kind of undermine that effort in terms of coming up with those insights, coming up with those aspects, which is pretty crucial. There are companies who do proper homework in terms of accounts and these people, while there are some who just do the transactional approach, right? It's a mix. So there is a challenge out there if you don't have insights. Second part I would talk about is personalization. As I said, right, content which adheres to each customer should be as per their need. There is a lack of content library as such within organizations today. There is a proper documentation, a mechanism which needs to be put in place, wherein you have some reference point, but at the same time, you also know what changes are needed with respect to that customer. So a content library plays a very important role, which addresses the challenge of personalization. Collaboration between teams are not always great. So you would have sales team who would reach out to the customer directly, but you would also have a marketing team which would do the reach out as well. So you need collaboration, a joint effort, so that there is no duplication of effort and there is no convoluting messages. There is no confusion. वो confusion नहीं होना है when you reach out to a specific account. So there never is to be confusion. There is to not be double messaging. There is to be a single message is to come from a single organization. So that collaboration is also very key. Lot of times you have seen that when we kind of, and this is not only my experience, it's my colleagues who work in similar roles as well. It's a very manual process. Right? You need to keep a track of all the target accounts, the individuals you are pursuing, and then have a check every week to see where you are in this process. So that's where the technology plays a very important role. You have marketing automation tools. You have tools like CRM, customer relationship management, which helps in actually streamlining these workflows and help to target these accounts efficiently, as well as at the same time being up to speed on what are the latest changes, what is the latest happenings in that specific account. Even LinkedIn has one module called Sales Navigator, wherein you actually have a list, something called as favorites, right? You keep a track of all your top 100 target accounts and see what changes are happening, what new people are entering the organization, what changes in job positions are happening. All those things help in that way as well. So that addresses one of the challenges. I would say these are the challenges which are something which can be addressed, which are in control. There are challenges which are out of control. For example, sudden changes in market trends, sudden changes in budget allocation, which something which we as a individual in this role is very limited. Our scope is very limited. That there is no hard and fast rule in terms of addressing these challenges. There are multiple methods. People with experience deal it with a certain way. People who are just learning the ropes help in a certain way. But it's a very engaging role, a role which lets you a lot of learning, a lot of collaboration, appreciation of the culture, appreciation of the domain knowledge. So it's a good role, but it has a set of challenges and a set of solutions as well, which works for some, which works for
any role for that matter, which is not transactional but has a strategic view to it, is obviously a good role. Because you not only get to know about your organization, but you get to know about your customer's organization, and those deep insights will help you somewhere or the other in your future assignments as well.
Absolutely.
Having said that, since you've taken the audience through to the complete ABSD process, you in your during your assignments must have learned some good hacks, tricks that you would like to share with our audience. Are there any?
Um, there's no secrets or hacks, I would say,
Okay.
but being confident, that is very important. Especially the role of soft skills plays a very important role. Apart from, you should have the domain knowledge and the proficiency, and you should know what you're talking. But besides that, soft skills, being patient, stakeholder collaboration, the way you speak, how you represent your company, how you tackle situations where there are escalations. So all this plays a very important role. It's more collaboration, more engagement rather than an IC or an individual contributor role here. There are multiple stakeholders which come through. It's not something which is fixed, like, there's a certain period where this will happen, and that's done. It's not like that. Things can get, very hectic. Things can go awry as well. So yeah, no hack as such, I would say. But yeah, one should continuously learn, keep up with the trends, technology, as well as domain standpoint, and always ensure that you provide a very good experience to your customer. That is the key.
Now, moving to my last question. From a guy who was at Sportskeeda doing product management to somebody who is now in your current organization, now handling sales, how does somebody who doesn't have much of an experience of B2B sales get into this role? And what are your key learnings while transitioning into these roles?
Okay, so let me cover the key learnings aspect of this, because that is something which is I can clearly call out because of my whole transition piece. And then we'll deep dive into what are the key aspects which are needed for, getting into this, or not only this role, but similar roles, because this is across the whole gambit, right? So coming back to my role is per se, my transition, I won't say from Sportskeeda, but I think it was much earlier than that. So I would say post MBA, where I was an analyst for a year, actually helped me get up to speed with my domain knowledge, especially in CPG and retail, right? Getting my hands dirty, trying to learn different concepts, because it was completely new to me. I wasn't in CPG retail before that. So learning new concepts, learning from my peers, understanding various aspects with respect to customer relationship was something very critical. That set my base, my foundation. Then I moved into pre-sales, business development, across geographies, started with UK, Europe, then moved to the US, and then got into Sportskeeda because of product, trying to understand how product works, and then getting into sales as in business development within my current org. It's a wonderful journey. I would say the learnings across these multiple stints have really helped me. The exposure which I've got in terms of not only my ways of working, in terms of what I do to keep myself abreast of domain knowledge, but also in terms of how do we engage with the customer, what are the critical points which needs to be addressed, and how to see to it that we always deliver value. That is something which is the whole gambit in terms of my learnings. But I will tie it up to what is required for this role. So when I say requirement in terms of this role, the number one would be a basic knowledge in terms of sales process. So you would come across multiple terms like mining, farming. So these are all part of the sales process. So you need to understand the basic details about sales. How does a sales process work? What are the stakeholders involved in this? What are the different stages? So that basic knowledge is very important. Number two, I would say some amount of background in marketing or any related field. I won't say a degree. Degree is not something which is essential or helps you make that transition, but at least to try to understand the various aspects of marketing, how it could help, what are the different frameworks, what are the different ways in which you can engage. That is very crucial as well. Keeping aside your basic knowledge and requirement in marketing, then there is an aspect of soft skill, which I've already touched upon in my previous question, wherein how do you talk to the customer, how do you represent it, how do you keep them engaged. That is something very important. Number four is more about trying to understand different types of tools, technology, if I have to call it. Some examples I would say in product, I used to actually, though it was not in my role, but I used to actually even try to do how UI wireframes like Figma, Miro. I used to also take my hands within different tools like Jira, marketing automation frameworks, etc. MailChimp for email sending. And now within my current organization, also we kind of try to understand the whole sales process. So we have LinkedIn Sales Navigator, the CRM. So you need to have a kind of a connect with the technologies. Now, especially Gen AI coming through, there are so many use cases wherein Gen AI helps you in creating content, that also personalized content. It helps you in search engine optimization. It helps into multiple cases. So you need to be keeping abreast of the technologies in today's world. And lastly, network. Try to understand more people, try to connect with them, make relationships, because you never know when they could be of help going forward in the future. And this is not, I'm saying in a professional capacity, because we are talking about sales. This is more in a personal capacity as well, that you continue to keep professional as well as personal relationships, because that is something which would always help you in the long term. So yeah, that's a very snippet of, I would say, what is required. Yep.
That was detailed. Any influencer that you follow, you get all the knowledge, information from?
No specific influencer, but yeah, I read a lot. I read a lot of articles. I have an account in Medium also. I read through articles in Medium. I also go through podcast. And because I come from a mixed background of sales plus product plus consulting, so my interests are varied. I just don't stick to one. But yeah, it's all about learnings, right? This role is kind of a snippet of multiple roles which I've done in the past. So it's not something like product management also needs stakeholder collaboration. You need management consultancy also needs a stakeholder collaboration. So it's all mix and match. No specific genre or an influencer per se, but yeah, it's all about reading, learning, certifications, keeping up to speed. Yeah, I would say that.
All right. Thank you so much, Ritesh.
Thank you, Pushkal. Thank you for inviting me. And I hope that some of the insights which I have shared and what the topics which we have spoken today, right, would be very helpful for whoever is listening.